Hey guys, so today is the deck profile of the Koaki Dolche deck that I used in the last showcase. First things first, I got my braces off today and I have a retainer in, and I realized that I have a little bit of a lisp, so I apologize for that. Anyway, back on the deck, it's very weird and it's very different, I guess, because the engines don't really benefit one another at all. There is one aspect in which they benefit one another, or where the Dolche engine benefits the Koaki engine, but I'll talk about that when I get to the Dolche engine. But Koaki mirrors, from my experience anyway, which isn't exactly the most experience, but they want a thin deck as quickly as possible to get into their iron cores. And Dolches, once they hit the graveyard, they usually just put themselves back into the deck. So you're putting more cards back into your deck, leaving you with a less chance of actually drawing into the iron core. So once you actually have an iron core, you're set and the deck runs relatively smoothly. But I mean, that's always been the case with Koaki mirrors. The problem with the deck is just getting the iron cores. After that, it's really actually a pretty decent deck. So first off, we're just going to talk about the Koaki mirror engine. 3 Urn Knights, 3 Crusaders, 2 Boulders, 1 Bergzak, and 1 Ice. Urn Knight and Crusader are really the backbone of the Koaki mirror engine. Urn Knight is how you special summon everything. Oh, and also, besides Koaki mirror Boulder, all the Koaki mirror monsters have the restriction or the condition, you either need to send something from your hand to the graveyard at the end phase to keep them alive, or you need to reveal a monster of their type to keep them alive. Boulder just kind of sits there. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, Crusader, you reveal a Iron Core or an Iron Core to summon any Koaki mirror monster out the deck. Crusader, when it destroys a monster, you can recycle. You can add one Koaki mirror card from your graveyard to your hand. That's actually really, really nice. And yeah, these are basically the 2 Koaki mirror monsters that are in most Beast Warrior Koaki mirror builds. There is a Rock Stun that uses some other Koaki mirror cards. I don't really know I don't know what those are off the top of my head. Next up, you have 2 Boulder. You could definitely get away with 1. I just like running 2 because, again, the whole deck revolves around getting Iron Core. This searches out any card, so we can search out the Iron Core. It can search out one of, the Urn Knights or whatever you need. And it's actually not that bad of a card. It is a little slow. I was thinking about running 3, but I never really needed that. And again, you could run 1. You can run really 1, 2, 3. I just decided to run 2 because one of them will get my search off. The other one will be used to as Urn Knight fodder to go into a generic rank 4. I use Crusaders to go into the Tiger King, which is basically the best XYZ in the extra deck, and Kagasuchi, which is another really good one. And I actually use Bergzak as a big beater, and I use Ice to deal with special summon monsters. So the second Boulder is usually there to help go into any generic rank 4s that I might need to go into. Bergzak is really just a big beater. When it destroys a monster and sends it to the graveyard, it gets to attack again, kind of like BLS. And I just think that's a really good effect. If you need damage, your opponent only has 1 monster, just go into this guy, beat over that monster, and then just attack directly. And it's actually not that bad. It's not really very useful outside of that because it doesn't really have that much synergy with the rest of the deck, but it's just a good beater. And 1 Ice. Ice is actually really good. It helps deal with special summon monsters, and it doesn't target. That's actually a big deal for me. I love cards that don't target. It's just something of mine, I guess. Next up for the Dolche engine, we have 3 Angeli, 2 Hoot Cake, 3 Cat, I'm just going to call it the Cat, and 1 Mageline. Mageline honestly doesn't get used that much. It is here just to search and thin out the deck a little bit, but outside of that, it's not really the biggest help because, again, this isn't really a Dolche deck. It's just a little Dolche engine. These 2 are obviously the best. The Cat just helps you. The Cat is more of a win more card. The reason I run 3 of it is because if you have the Cat or Mufwil or whatever it's called, and you have a Hoot Cake or you have an Angeli, you could just push really hard. And you do need an extra Cat in the deck to summon with Hoot Cake. You need the Hoot Cake effect to summon a Cat, so that's how you go into your rank 3s, which is a really important aspect of this deck. And then Angeli just gets everything else. So the reason I'm not running 3 Hoot Cake is because it can be dead. I know that sounds weird, but there are times where it's just dead and you don't really want it in your hand because you don't have anything to take advantage of it. I will explain why well, actually, I guess I'll just do that right now. If you guys have been around long enough, you'll remember the Primal Origin series that I did. And I used a similar build, and I ran Tour Guide in place of this little engine right here. And I prefer the Dolche engine in the sense that it gives access to Leviair. Because, I mean, you could make Leviair with Tour Guide, but with Hoot Cake, you actually have a way to reliably banish your Urn Knights. So you banish your Urn Knight with Hoot Cake, you summon out the cat, you summon Levier, bring back that banished Urn Knight, and then, you know, just go off from there. The reason I prefer that to the reason I prefer this engine to Hoot Cake is because of Levier. Because, don't get me wrong, with Tour Guide, it is good. You can make plays fairly easy. You can make a lot. I mean, you can make every rank 3 that the Dolche engine can, and it requires like fewer card investments in your main deck. But I feel like Levier is a really good addition to this deck because when you're using Tour Guide, the best card you can go into when it's like combo related is going to Invoker. That requires you to have cards, or that requires you to have an Urn Knight in your deck. Levier allows you to use the dead Urn Knights, which you really wouldn't have access to otherwise. I mean, I guess you could recycle them with Crusader, but that's not always going to happen. And again, Crusader is usually being used as material for Tiger King Kagetsuchi. Obviously, there are times where you will use Crusader to recycle things, but it doesn't happen as often as you might think. So the Dolche engine just helps get into that. And also, you have these 5 cards. If you get Hoot Cake or an Angeli, if you get Angeli, you're guaranteed a rank 3 unless your opponent stops it, obviously. And when I say guaranteed, I'm just talking about like if your opponent has nothing or your plays just go through, you're guaranteed a rank 3. If you have a Hoot Cake with anything in your graveyard or any monster in your graveyard, you're guaranteed a rank 3. So that's 5 cards right there that guarantee a rank 3. 3 cards here that are basically like a 1 more card and then the 1 searcher. Whereas with Tour Guide engine, you're running 3 Tour Guides and 1 dead card. You know, the Koaki Mirror Doom, that doesn't really do much. So with Tour Guide, you have 3 chances to get out an XYZ, and then just 1 card that's absolutely dead. Here you have technically 5 chances to get out a rank 3 XYZ, 3 chances to get a win more card, and then the 1 chance to get a searcher. So the cat is definitely dead on its own, but it's really, you know, it's not that bad. Next up, 2 Iron Core, you need it to make the deck work. 3 Diamond Core, it searches the Iron Core and any Koaki Mirror you might need at the time. 2 Tenki and 1 Tensu. In the original build that I had, and in like most Koaki Fire Fist decks, I guess they're called now, they run 3 Tenki and like a Tensu or 2. And I completely understand that because Bear is a thing in those decks, it's not a thing in this deck. So really the only time you want to search is when you're searching out Urn Knight. You don't really want to search Crusader or anything like that. Obviously Tensu is a good card. Just, you know, you can summon out your Angeli, or summon out whatever, go into a rank 3, summon the first Urn Knight, grab Tensu because you're probably going into Tiger King, then summon a second Urn Knight if you have it in your hand, and just go off from there. So that's really a nice card. And again, I'm not running any other fire formations because Bear was the way I searched them earlier when I had that original build, and that's how Koaki Fire Fist work. They use Bear to search out other cards. I don't really have that luxury here, so I'm just sticking to 2 Tenki and 1 Tensu. Next up, 2 MSTs, Book of Moon and Forbidden Lance. I mean, really just, I don't know, simple cards. Also, the deck doesn't do well against back row, so I might want to kick this up to 3 or kick this up to 3 because the deck is really reliant on its special summon regardless of what engine is going. So if they stop that initial, did I say special summon or normal summon? They're relying on the normal summon, so if your opponent stops that initial normal summon, you're in, you know, it puts you an entire turn behind your opponent, which isn't good. And then the 1 Mind Control, again, this is a rank 4 and a rank 3 deck. Most decks have level 4s and level 3s that they're going to set, or just, you know, play. So steal it, go into your plays, and just go from there. So I feel like Mind Control is a pretty decent card. 1 Bottomless, 1 Torrential, 1 Solemn. I did originally have a Compulse, but I dropped it in favor of Chapstone just because Compulse is nice. I still do think it's a good card, but I don't know, I've been running into Clip Hops a lot lately, and, you know, Compulse doesn't really do much to them. I mean, granted, neither does Torrential, but I don't know, just my thoughts. 2 Trapstun, just because, like I said, this deck doesn't really do that well against back row. And I did drop a Compulse for this, and I also dropped Skill Prisoner for this, and, you know, they're down here for a reason. And then last, Mischief of the Mokai, of the Yokai. I'm sorry, but yeah, this card isn't really that good. It's just a fun card. It's a trolley card. I just liked it. It was definitely useful a few times. Onto the extra deck, 1 Kagetsuchi. I mean, it's built in protection. Nice card. 1 Tiramisu. I mean, the deck can make it, and that's another reason I prefer the Dolche engine to the Tour Guide engine. It gives you Tiramisu. I've never made Tiramisu before. I've never played Dolches, but it's actually just fun to be able to bring her out into the field and just go from there. 2 Tiger King, the best card in the extra deck. Searches your Tenki, searches your Tensu, just kind of go off from there. 1 Arknight, just a good card. 1 Giant Hand, 1 Castel, 1 Diamond Dyer, 1 Excidon, 1 Lavalval Chain, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Cowboy, 1 Crab King, 1 Leviair, 1 Invoker. I actually really do like Crab King in like combo heavy decks because you can end your combo with a 3000 beater and it helps get over a lot of things. So I mean, that's just me, I suppose. Then you have Leviair. I kind of already talked about this. I actually really like having access to it because it allows you to reuse your dead Earn Knights, so you don't have to have targets in your deck. You don't have to burn through the targets in your deck. You can just use Leviair, bring back a banished Earn Knight, or obviously bring back an Angeli to go into Tiramisu if you have that whole play working. And then Invoker, just solid for the deck. Now to the cards that didn't quite make it. The Tour Guide engine, which is 3 Tour Guide and Koaki Mirror Doom, I kind of already talked about it. I just prefer the Dolche engine. If you want to put Tour Guide in here, by all means, be my guest. It's not a bad card at all. I just prefer the Dolche engine at this point. Koaki Mirror, Drago, and Tornado. These are just 2 cards that I found interesting. A friend of mine actually reminded me about Drago because a lot of people on DevPro use like light and dark decks. It's just a lot of people do. You have Shadows, you have Light Swarms, all that good stuff. This kind of stops them for a little bit. Tornado, just you stack a Iron Core, you send all special summon monsters back to the hand, or destroy all of them. Ooh, okay. Never mind, I thought it would just send them back to the hand. So that's actually a nice effect. But I just prefer Koaki Mirror Ice at that point because they do similar things. But yeah. Next up, Dolche Mageline. I was thinking about running another copy, but I felt like 1 was enough because I didn't even really use 1, but I can't imagine not playing it because, again, searching is always nice. The 3rd copy, Boulder, I kind of already touched on that. Next up, 1 Black Shibacorn, 1 Rhapsody and Berserk, just 2 cards that I like. I just couldn't really find room in the extra deck for them. 3rd copy of Iron Core, again, you want the core in your hand, but if you add this card, like, core is nice when you have your engine going, when you have like a Koaki Mirror able to make use of it, basically Earn Knight, but outside of that, it's just really a dead card. So I understand why people might want to run 3. I personally wouldn't mind it, but at the same time, you're basically taking out a card that's useful for this card that's only useful in like a specific situation. So I personally prefer just 2 Iron Core and then 3 Diamond Core. 1 Soul Charge, it just benefits the deck. Like, it's a good card. I just couldn't really find space for it, and I couldn't really justify myself playing it in this build. But I guess I should talk about that. I have my own reasons against Soul Charge. Those reasons are kind of going out the window with things like clip-offs coming out, but I just couldn't really find space, and especially because of the Dolche engine, they don't really like being in the graveyard. They kind of recycle themselves out. So yeah, there's that. Again, I already talked about the Tenki, why I don't really run another copy of that. 1 Skill Prisoner, 1 Compulse. Skill Prisoner is just a card that I like. It's not necessarily the best. Breakthrough Skill is pretty much better. It did save me once, I think, or kind of, against like an Effect Veiler, and that is one thing Breakthrough Skill can't do. But I just think Breakthrough is a better card. I just prefer running Skill Prisoner, however, just because I like the card. I think it's cool. But in like a competitive sense, and if you want a card to actually benefit you more, Breakthrough Skill's better. I just like Skill Prisoner because I think it's cool. Don't know how many times I'm going to say that. And then Compulse, just a solid card, but again, I dropped these 2 cards in favor of Trap Stun because the deck doesn't really do that well against back row. So yeah, that's been it. That was the deck profile. Hopefully it wasn't as long. I wanted it to be kind of short. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys will check this deck out. It's actually pretty cool. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Later, guys. Hey guys, one thing I forgot to mention, hopefully you're still here. Right now there's a build kind of going around. Jeff Jones piloted a Koaki Fire Fist deck or Koaki Fist deck at Nationals and did not horribly with it. And for the format right now, I feel like that deck is definitely better. That variant, that hybrid is definitely better because it's built for the long game, or at least it's better at the grind game, the long game, than this deck is. So I really, if you are interested in the Koaki Mirror deck, definitely check that out. A buddy of mine, BackBurner over the Swaggatronx account, actually did a showcase and deck profile of his own Koaki Fist deck, and it is slightly outdated, it's slightly older, but it's really similar to the one Jeff Jones built or Jeff Jones played. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description to the showcase and the deck profile. And yeah, now that's it, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.